what advice do you have for someone in high school or in college about how to live a life that they're proud of, or live a life that, of socially and ethically when they create new things? Like, what advice do you have for them?
Well, I guess firstly, I would tell them to try lots of different things to find something they're passionate about. Like it's hard when you see somebody like narrowing so early in life about what they're going to do. So just, especially because, the profession they have may not exist today.
Right.
Explore lots of different things. I even taught to my graduate students, I'm like, first 2 years, try everything. Like take lots of classes everywhere, learn different research methods. And I can tell you for every one of my PhD students, at least who've started, like they had an idea coming in about what they wanted to do. None of them have done that, but they've always done something better. And so I would encourage them to explore lots of different spaces to the extent that the system allows them to, and just try to find something that they like, and not to, to stop and talk to people, not just to focus primarily on, the craziness of GPA and academics, but to sit down and make connections. I mean, we all know that, that connections help us with our mental health. We all know that connections help us find jobs later in life. But to, prioritize that. And I would also encourage people to, this is my pet peeve, take ethics classes and design classes early on. Don't save them to like the very end before you leave, because if you take them early, you can actually think more critically about things that you do later on.
Right.
Sometimes I see people leaving those classes like right before graduation. Take them sooner. And also, we're sitting in the Siebel Center for Design. Design is such a powerful communication tool. I would encourage more people to take design courses.
I found it pretty fascinating that you had your bachelor's in like engineering, you did your PhD in like media arts. And
yeah, it was so much fun. Like I shared an office like with a photographer, like I interacted with a ballerina and like an Olympic luge, competitor. But seeing sort of like the what different disciplines valued and what the milestones were in different disciplines really helped you, think about problems in different ways. And so like, for example, a computer scientist building a tool for medicine without consulting with people in the medical field or people in related fields, puts them at a huge disadvantage and in a position where they can cause some damage. But being in a space where there's lots of different people and you can get feedback is great. Another thing I would tell students, this is something I wish somebody had told me, was that don't be scared to ask for feedback before something is complete. The discussions that you have, like the back and forth, will make things so much better. Whereas I had this tendency to be such a perfectionist and I didn't want to show anybody anything until it was like near done. But it's never done, right? Like it'll never be done. And so the more iterations you go through something, the better something's going to be. And I didn't understand the value of iteration until graduate school. I also never really learned how to write until graduate school. And I think maybe I went towards engineering because I didn't have to write so much and because it was just like metrics and I could rely on myself. But learning to collaborate is also another skill I would encourage people to work on when they're undergrads for many reasons. You might end up working in a company and you don't always get to choose who you work with.
Right.
But also in life, you're going to meet lots of different people and you're going to have to navigate some situations that you're not going to choose to be in. So learning collaboration skills, I think, is something that we need to emphasize a little bit more. And people should maybe not avoid it, but just jump in and just try to learn from it.
No, and I think that the piece of feedback, asking for feedback, is critical. I mean, I released a project last week, and the name was a little out there, and I was talking to this big TV channel about getting an interview to promote it, and the person was like, "Yeah, it's a great initiative, but horrible name, and I cannot talk about it because if I say the name, we would get fined." It's like, oh my god. So I wish I would have gotten more feedback, and people did tell me, but I still want to go with the name just to try the experiment. But that's always feedback and getting as many iterations as possible for you.
Yeah. Like that's not something that I understood going in. And I also I wish I had taken more open-ended classes in the sense that I took most of my classes were like, here's a problem set, there's like one right answer. But going back to the critical thinking part of it, classes where there isn't just one right answer, where, your brain has to take you places where you, as long as you justify something, and critique it and defend it, like that type of critical thinking was something I wish I'd known then that it was a skill that I would have needed later in life. And I just never, I just didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that discussion that you have, you believe in this idea and you need to prove it, and just by communicating, not just a math proof. Something we did early in the semester, we went to this random philosophy class, just showed up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it was funny because...
Do you guys just go to random classes and just sit in?
Yeah, we did that over the beginning of the semester. We were
yeah, because that's you get to learn, you get to see how different people are, and
you should have a podcast about that.
Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, so in that class, it was talking. Okay, you have these two philosophies for how to live life and whatever.
Yeah.
And people were like, "No, I think this is wrong," and oh yeah, that's true, and I know because I think this thing is right. So that's fun. That's
that skill is important, but it also tells you what to trust, who to trust, how to think about primary, secondary, like different types of sources, but also how to communicate. We have some amazing researchers here doing exceptional work, but if they can't communicate to the public, like you said, it's hard for it to be used in the world, right? Mm. It's also hard for them to get these jobs if they can't communicate the work that they did in an interview.
Or the grants.
Yeah. So that's something I wish I had, known more of. And I wish I had spoken up more in school. I came from a culture where you didn't speak back to people that were older than you.
Right.
And especially if you were female, you didn't speak up. And I struggled a lot my first 3 years to be able to ask a question and to be able to resist a response and ask for more detailed response or, contradict someone. That took me a long time to do.
And that's how people can get feedback, and that's how you change things. Because if you don't say anything, you're not going to be able to create the nonprofit auditing algorithm.
Yeah, there's lots of things that need to be done. But I do think we need something like that.